This is Karl Moore talking management for the Globe and Mail. Today I'm talking to Kathleen Eisenhardt, who's a professor at Stanford University Engineering School and whose father was a Canadian. So kind of welcome back home, Kathleen, in a way.
Oh, thank you, Karl.
How do more entrepreneurial companies compete with the big players out there?
Okay, yeah, that's an interesting issue, and I've been trying to work on that lately. And we've really been looking at, we did a study of about 5 or 6, this was Philippe Santos from INSEAD. We did a study of 5 or 6 companies that started right about the same time in markets that had never existed before. And we were trying to understand what it was those companies did. And so it was a very interesting process of creating a market both cognitively and competitively. And what we found was that the entrepreneurs who were successful tended to create a vision of what the market was and who they were, and would try to essentially promote that. Use the media, for example. Let me give you a good example. One example, not in our study, but is Yahoo. The way Yahoo started, use the media very effectively to create an image of Yahoo. Mm-hmm. So one of their gimmicks was if you were a Yahoo employee, you get your car painted for free if you painted it purple and yellow. Okay. Well, that was a story the media picked up on, and it was largely done for the media. Mm-hmm. Another media example is the eBay story about the founder founding the company because his wife wanted to trade collectibles. Mm-hmm. From what we know, a fictitious story, but a story that was romantic, appealing, made the founder very personal, and was picked up in the media. And so what we see the successful entrepreneurs doing is understanding media, understanding what makes a good story, understanding how to have what's a consistent image they want to present, repeatedly presenting that image in different places, and sort of gradually building up a media presence. And so what you see is effective entrepreneurs, which I don't think large corporation executives do as well or understand, or maybe they don't have to. But the entrepreneurial firms often using the media to their own advantage.
And I guess in some ways it's embodied by the founder, the entrepreneur, that there's a very personal story. Mm-hmm. So it's a story of a person rather than a story of this nameless, faceless corporation.
Yeah, it's often the story of a person. Of course, it works particularly well if it's a consumer products innovation. But even someone who is doing something that's more of a business-to-business business, those companies also might benefit from the same kind of media focus. So, for example, a company I'm working with right now, which I probably shouldn't discuss too much, but is in the green tech, clean tech area, okay. And they're developing a consistent message of their positioning within that market that they are trying to create buzz around in both in the print and the print, the internet, and the televised media. So the idea that one tries to create a persona for the company is a very important part of creating a market, so that you become synonymous with what that market is.
But if you have a market vision, it may not work out. It may not resonate with the customer. It may be the wrong vision.
It may be the wrong vision. That's right. And so one adjusts one's vision and thinks about changing a vision, and perhaps like a politician does. But maybe we won't go there. Okay. but to have no vision at all gets you nowhere.
Okay.
So it's better to have something that you're then maybe tweaking and adjusting. That's helpful. The other thing that entrepreneurial companies do, we realized, was they're extraordinarily anti-competitive if they can be. So we saw situations in which what the best entrepreneurs do is they tend to visualize the industry ahead of time. Mm-hmm. So, for example, we were studying one of the companies I've done some work with is a company called Jamdat, which was became the leading entrepreneurial company in wireless gaming. And I think what was impressive about that company is that they did visualize how the market was going to come together. Because when they started, the idea of playing video games on your phone, no one had done it yet. Yeah. No one knew who was going to play a video game on their phone, or if anybody was going to play a video game on the phone, what video games they would play, and then how to monetize it. Because if you think about video games on a phone, you need a carrier like Verizon or like Rogers in Canada. Or you need a platform provider. In this industry, it's Sun or it's Qualcomm. You need a phone like Samsung or Nokia or Motorola. And so you've got a lot of players to put together, and it wasn't clear who was going to control, who was going to make money where.
Yeah.
And so what I think entrepreneurial companies did, in the particular case of GenBat, was really envision what that network could be. Okay. And envision what's the role of the carrier, what's the role, so essentially creating the industry architecture. And the vision that then some of the larger companies will then play along with where they see their role. And we saw that being repeated in a number of entrepreneurial companies where the entrepreneurs were coming up with, this is the market, this is who the buyers are, here's the suppliers, oh, by the way, we're in the center. But there's an opportunity for the big companies. And so what we saw the big companies doing was then working with these small companies because maybe they were busy with doing other things, but they wanted to play in this market. And what it effectively did from the entrepreneur's point of view was kept these other players out. So they essentially were controlling their own competition.
But the part of the trouble is a small company getting the attention of a big company.
Yeah.
It just, the mouse roaring at the lion. How do you get the attention of the big
company? Yeah, that's
company?
an interesting. First of all, the big companies are often intrigued by the vision.
Okay.
But they're busy doing whatever it is they normally do.
Sure.
And so they'll say, oh, that's a great vision. Oh, I see what we'll do. They might join that way because the entrepreneur is essentially brokering the deal.
Okay.
The Hollywood producer putting together the movie.
Okay.
The other way that the entrepreneurs do it, they will do things like they'll say, Karl, I'm going to hook you up with, I don't know, Jennifer over here. Yeah. And then I'm over here with Jennifer saying, Jennifer, I'm going to hook you up with Karl.
Sure.
And you're talking to me because you're interested in Jennifer, not me.
Yeah.
And vice versa, but I'm the one in the middle.
Sure.
And so I get myself a spot too.
Yeah.
So they do a number of things that we've started to realize are things that we're terming illusions. So creating illusions that you're connected and more important than you really are.
Okay.
Exploiting the tendencies that you have as a large company to wait. Okay. I know you're going to wait, so how do I exploit the fact you're going to wait? I'm going to be your option in a new market.
Okay.
And so doing things like that. And then the final funny thing, interesting thing they do, which we thought was this is sort of anti-competitive, very anti-competitive, is they will often, we saw a number of situations where an entrepreneurial company was buying another entrepreneurial company, a rival, with the intention of basically either enfolding those resources or maybe just wiping out a competitor. So something that, let's say, a large company couldn't do, because it would be obviously anti-competitive, but which a small company in a new market actually can do. And one of the intriguing things that we noticed is that entrepreneurs prefer to sell to another entrepreneur. So they, in some sense, the focal, sort of the predator entrepreneur is actually exploiting the tendency of their rivals to want to be bought by them.
But when you look at Geoffrey Moore's Crossing the Chasm, one thing I've argued is that small companies shouldn't cross the chasm. What they should do is get bought out by the big players that have the networks and so on. So what I've argued, and perhaps inappropriately given what you just said, is that make yourself pretty for a GE and IBM, get bought out, and then go enjoy your millions. You didn't become a billionaire, but go do it again a second time, as that's what you're good at.
Yeah, well, that's personal taste.
Yeah.
But it's also, in my experience, you can make yourself pretty, but if you don't legitimately look like you could also make it on your own, you've lost some bargaining leverage.
Okay, so you want to look like, boy, if I really put my mind to it, we could do this. We have the customers, we have the capability, and you're being wooed by them and let them talk you into it.
Yes, let them talk you into it, but you still have your bargaining chip of continuing.
Okay.
So I think in my experience, the companies that play that strategy tend to develop better companies that are more attractive to buy. So they actually plus they've left a door open for themselves, so they've improved their own leverage.
Okay. It sounds like the entrepreneur, in your case, what you were talking about, has got to have a real lot of chutzpah and just almost the charismatic vision and this sort of thing, where this is just smoke and mirrors a bit, but there's a really strong person there.
There's usually a strong team there.
Okay.
I think that's fair to say, and there is often maybe a front person that people, think of as being the company. But most of the companies that do well, I think, in the entrepreneurial space, are teams of 4 or 5 people that have fairly complementary but divergent skills.
Okay.
Right.
Good. Well, thanks for your time, Kathleen.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.